All right, so to give a rundown of what we are doing this week, I'll talk about the peer review in a minute. What I want to talk about first, so looking at our Schoology page, we have the road reading and note submission part one. Oh no, hold on, part one. So within this assignment, we have the road, the reading schedule, and the directions, and then I also have a PDF of sample notes. So I'm going to open up this document. Actually, I already have it open here, and just talk through it a little bit. So this is a literary and diction analysis practice. And if you look at this, the reading schedule of any of our assignments, of any of our readings that have discussions and notes attached to them, I will have the breakdown of the pages and the due dates for each class. So unlike with the Odyssey, where we were just reading it and we were using it in class, you're going to have a little more time to read the road. And on each of these due dates, we are going to be discussing that section of the book. And the notes that you are writing are helping you participate in that discussion. So a breakdown of the directions. You can type your notes if you want. If you do, there's a rundown within the directions of how you should set up the font and the size. If you want to handwrite the notes, I mean, most students end up handwriting. I mean, it doesn't matter either way. But I asked it's a college ruled notebook. For discussion days, if you're back in school at that point, I ask that you bring a hard copy of the notes. So bring your notebook with you, or if you are typing your notes, you do need a hard copy of the notes, so you're not finding when students are staring at the computer during the discussion, it tends to not go so well. When you're turning in this assignment on the due date, you're going to attach, if you are turning in notebook pages, you're going to just take a PDF of the notes like I did here. You're going to take a PDF. Oh, now I can't get out of here. Oh, good grief. But you just take pictures and upload them. Otherwise, you can just upload the document to this assignment. So what are you taking notes on? So there's a breakdown, basically a menu of options. I have a required section, an optional but recommended, and then just some sentence frames at the bottom. So on each week that notes are due, I would like you to use the required section as a menu of things. You don't have to do every single one of these bullets every time. The idea is that you do, because you're being graded on both literary elements as well as diction analysis, I'd make sure you'd have one of these and then one of the diction options. So for required sections of menu choices, you can track elements of the hero's journey. I do include hints for some of the things, like for symbols, look out for birds, houses, dreams, and fire. McCarthy, how he uses flashback is pretty interesting. So I'd pay attention to kind of what are the triggers of some of his flashbacks? Why are they happening? And illusions, we'll actually talk about it more in depth when we get closer or when we're within this unit. But illusions are just references to other things. And in this particular book, you have biblical allusions, so references to saviors, even though the reference in the text is not, this is not a religious book, but so then it's a good thing to ask about, well, why does this imagery come up? Why does this language come up? There are some allusions to the Holy Grail, and so based on students' knowledge of, background information, I did include a link to our an article. It's a short article. It's just a few paragraphs long that gives a little bit of background into that King Arthur's legend. But like I said, we'll talk about this more in class. For diction analysis, you can do, similarly to what we were doing with the Odyssey, the word level analysis. You can also look at McCarthy's syntax choices. He makes some interesting choices when it comes to sentence structure of like, when does he choose to include full sentences, like independent clauses, and when does he incorporate sentences that are just dependent clauses or some just straight up fragments. There are some other things too that are optional but recommended, like are there other literary devices you see, noting beautiful passages that stand out. You can track some of the characters over time and later in the reading, looking at themes. I do think there's a lot of value in tracking your confusion. So if there's a moment that stands out to you that does merit rereading and is confusing, including that in your notes can be a really interesting starting point to contribute to discussion, where you could ask people like, I didn't get this, did you get this? And you guys could kind of unpack it together, because maybe somebody read it and understood it, or maybe none of you did. And that, I think, can be an interesting starting place of trying to figure that out together. So that is the Reader's Guide, just a rundown of what we're heading into in about 2 weeks with The Road.